Death at Rottingdean, Chapter 30. You must lose a fly to catch a trout. George Herbert, Jacula Predentum, 1651. I don't want to be calm, Aunt Georgie cried. I want the boy to be found. Do you hear me? She thumped her hand on the constable's desk. Turn out the men of the village. I want an immediate search. Constable Woodhouse sighed heavily. But Lady Burne-Jones, he said, I'm trying to tell you that the boy will be found, no doubt about it. He'll turn up in his own good time. Boys do that, you know. They pop off, on their own business. He's gone fishing, most like. He gave her what was obviously meant to be a reassuring smile. It's near on tea time, milady. If the young imp ain't back till tomorrow morning, come and tell me, and I'll have a look for him myself. Kate made another attempt. I believe, she said, that what Lady Burne-Jones is saying is that the boy did not pop off on his own business. He did not go fishing because he had no fishing equipment. We do not believe he has been injured, for we thoroughly searched the area. We think he has been... She swallowed. The idea was almost too terrible to contemplate. The stout constable raised both eyebrows. Been what? He asked. Kidnapped, Kate said. Kidnapped? The constable echoed, his bulbous eyes opening wide with a look of utter disbelief. Yes, kidnapped, Aunt Georgie snapped. Would you like us to spell the word for you, sir? Not be necessary, the constable could scarcely suppress a smile. You'll pardon me, your ladyships, but who'd want to kidnap a worthless boy? Kate bit her lip. When she had seen the photographer standing near the barn, she had thought nothing of it. Why should she? The South Downs were crowded with photographers and painters seeking to capture the wild, sweeping beauty of earth, sky, and sea, and falling all over one another into the general melee. There was nothing about this particular photographer that should have caught her attention. So it wasn't until Patrick had vanished, and she had begun the fruitless search for him, that she remembered the man in the grey bowler, packing his camera equipment hurriedly as if he wanted to make his escape. She remembered, too, that Patrick had stiffened as he recognized the man, and that all through the picnic lunch the boy had been nearly silent. And then, with a sudden start, she remembered something else. Talking with another photographer, similarly dressed in tweed knickerbockers and grey bowler, on the quarter deck above the beach on the morning George Radford's body was pulled out of the ocean. That man had spoken with an accent, French or Belgian perhaps, and had said something about the natives being driven by the powers of darkness to jump off the cliff, as if suggesting that the victim had killed himself. An intuition told her that the photographer on the quarter deck and the photographer near the barn were the same man. But why in heaven's name would he want to kidnap Patrick? How was this foreign photographer, if that's what he was, connected to the unhappy events in Rottingdean? And if he had the boy, what did he intend to do with him? Oh, if she hadn't fallen asleep, if she had kept a closer eye on the boy, if she had taken her responsibility more seriously, none of this might have happened. But Constable Woodhouse suffered none of Kate's distress or guilt. It's as clear as day, milady, he declared cheerfully. Since there's nobody who would want a foolish boy, there's nobody who would take him. That's got himself lost is all. He'll come dragging round to the village when he's hungry and cold. Go home and have your tea and don't fret. But somebody did want the boy, and somebody had taken him, for some appalling purpose or another. Kate was as sure of that as she was of her own name, and the certainty made her sick with apprehension. Patrick knew too much about the village's profitable smuggling operation. Patrick knew what was going on in the tunnels, and what was planned for this very evening. He had seen the man who rowed George Radford's body out to sea, and had overheard Harry Totwell talking with one of the investors about... Well, Aunt Georgie exclaimed indignantly, rising from the chair in front of the constable's desk, I can see that we're going to gain no cooperation from the law, which is either too indolent or too inept to be of any real use. She pulled at Kate's sleeve. Come, Lady Sheridan, we'll organize our own search. When the boy is found, there will be no thanks to the law. And with a last withering look at the constable, she swept out the door. But as Aunt Georgie and Kate quickly discovered, it was impossible to organize a search. For one thing, the men whom they spoke appeared to share the constable's view that Patrick had simply gone off in pursuit of his own affairs and would return when he was ready. For another, there seemed to be an air of barely suppressed anticipation in the village, as if everyone were waiting for something important to happen and had no interest in anything else. Kate thought she knew what they were waiting for, and wished desperately she knew whether it and Patrick's disappearance were connected. And now she'd had time to consider it. She was beginning to understand that a search of the area where Patrick had disappeared was not likely to do any good anyway. If her intuition was right and the photographer had abducted Patrick, the boy wouldn't be on the Downs. He would be hidden somewhere, bound so that he could not escape, and gagged so that he could not cry out. But where? And my head aches so terribly that I can scarcely see, Aunt Georgie said with a heavy sigh after they had met with their third and fourth refusal. I must go home, Kate. There's nothing more I can do except pray for him. Kate put her arms around Aunt Georgie. And I'm beginning to think that there's no point in trying to search, even if we could get the men to do it, she said, feeling a great weariness. Anyway, it will be dark soon. Charles and Rod will return from Brighton shortly, and they will surely know what to do. But as she made her own way back to Seabrook House, she was not at all sure that Charles and Rod would have any answers or be able to offer any helpful suggestions. Patrick had been taken for an unknown purpose by a man who seemed to stand far behind the scenes, a man whose face she could neither remember nor describe with any clarity. But she could remember Patrick, his freckled face, his fiery hair, his dancing eyes green as springtime, and his loss burned like a fire in her heart.